And joining me now is an attorney who represents 11 Epstein victims, Eric Fudali. Thanks for coming back, Eric. I wonder what you make of what's been released today and what new questions they might raise for you.
Well, certainly a lot of questions. I think one thing we can probably agree on and take from these emails is there just may, at least according to what we've seen, again, out of context, but there may have been a little more to the relationship between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, or at the very least, perhaps Donald Trump knew a little bit more about Jeffrey Epstein and his operation and what he was up to than Donald Trump has admitted publicly. Certainly that email that says, quote, "Of course he knew about the girls." Again, out of context, very difficult to sort of, guess as to what that actually means. But of course, he knew about the girls. Coming from Jeffrey Epstein, I would say certainly raises suspicions and raises a lot of questions. And this is why we need full disclosure of all the documents. So we don't have to pick things out of context. We get the entire picture. And that's why I and many of my clients and all of the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein have been advocating for a full release. So we have the context and we have full exposure of those who enabled Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's this continuation of what has been, I'm sure, for all of the survivors, this drip, drip, drip. What's the level of frustration when you get something like this? But again, as you point out, as Ken pointed out, you don't have the full context.
Exactly. Well, it's been a lot of frustration for decades for the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. It's always sort of been, 3 steps forward, 30 steps back, when it comes to them seeking any measure of justice, or for Jeffrey Epstein and his associate to see any measure of justice. Even Ghislaine Maxwell, the single human being who has actually been held accountable for these crimes, is now, playing with puppies, apparently in a minimum security resort. So it's been very frustrating to see, as you said, this drip, drip, drip. It's nice to see some real actual information here, an email that actually is worth discussing. But again, it's not nearly enough. We need more. We need to, what are they talking about? The dog that didn't bark. What are they talking about? Of course, he knew about the girls. What is this? Almost seems like this email talking about gaining political, favor with him by not releasing certain information. I mean, this all just, it opens up and asks more questions than it answers.
So yesterday on this show, you said that Ghislaine Maxwell should not testify before Congress, that she doesn't need more of the spotlight. I know there's widespread disbelief that she would add anything truthful to this. But I asked a Democratic congressman on the committee, Raja Krishnamoorthi, about that last hour. Here's what he said about if and when she should testify. Take a listen.
I think that she should come before our committee, but only after we get the file so we can actually cross-examine her properly. With regard to the survivors, they deserve access to the files. We need to do justice by them. Many of them don't even have access to the files in which they themselves are the subject because of trauma that has caused them to lose memory of the events surrounding their trafficking. And so for their purposes, for doing justice to them, those files need to be released. But also for the legislative purpose of preventing this from ever happening again, we need to get those files as well.
Could there be, after the release of the files, if indeed that ever happens, a real substantive reason to put her under oath again?
Again, I'm cautious in giving her a spotlight. Of course, we want more answers. Of course, we want to get down to what truly happened, what's in the files, who facilitated, who enabled Jeffrey Epstein, more importantly, who perhaps abused along with Jeffrey Epstein. My issue is I don't think Ghislaine Maxwell deserves the spotlight. I don't trust Ghislaine Maxwell. As you know, there were allegations of perjury, even acknowledged by a federal judge throughout her case. She chose not to testify in her own criminal trial. She was then given this platform by the DOJ to deny things that she was already convicted of. That's my concern. I don't want to give her a platform. I don't want to give her the spotlight. If Congress, the congressmen are confident that they have real information and real questions, and they're really going to be aggressive and get real answers for her, I'm open to it. But again, it's sort of I'll believe it when I see it. I just don't trust Ghislaine Maxwell, and I don't trust anything I've seen so far as to how she's been treated by this administration.
We only have 30 seconds left, but I do want to ask you, there's been a suggestion that this could put new pressure on for the release of the Epstein files. Do you think that's true? Or just you're keeping your fingers crossed?
Yeah, keeping my fingers crossed as I have been for a while. I hope so. I mean, this is really one of the first sort of not breakthroughs, but it's something interesting, something a little shocking to see Trump and Epstein's name mentioned in those ways. Of course he knew about the girls. I mean, that's a pretty fascinating and intriguing sentence in that email that deserves more scrutiny, deserves more examination. And hopefully that maybe puts the onus on Congress and the administration to finally just give a full release, which is what the survivors have been asking for since day one.
Eric Fidali, thank you so much for coming back on.